Hey engineering students, welcome to this Autodesk Fusion 360 video tutorial on how to make a dice. This video is intended to help you improve your skills now that we've had some initial experience to the software. So we're going to just design something simple, a die. It's a six-sided shape. And for those of you who've never really looked at a dice, I know you've all used them, but for those of you who haven't actually really looked at one, for a die, the opposite sides equal 7. So if this side up here is a 4, I could tell you the side underneath it is a 3. So if that's a 5, 2, 6, and 1, okay? So all die share that same property. Now I could look at this printable die over here and tell you this is not legit, because if I folded this together, the 5 would be adjacent to the 2 and they would not be on opposite sides. So keep that in mind when we design this. We're going to design some die that looks like this, and we're going to be using a number of techniques to achieve that. Okay, without further ado, let's get started. The first thing I'm going to want you to do is start a new Autodesk Fusion 360 file so it looks like mine. Create a sketch by clicking on that top button in the side there, and then we are going to select the bottom plane, the XZ plane. So I'm going to click on it once, and because I want this to be as symmetrical as possible, because it is a die, even though I can use a 2-point rectangle, I'm actually going to use a center rectangle. So let me just kind of explain how that works. I'm going to click the 2-point rectangle, and then before I drop it down anywhere, if we look here, we have what's known as a sketch palette. And there are actually 3 different types of rectangles. We have the 2-point, we have the 3-point, and we also have what is known as a center rectangle. Now the center rectangle is cool because it lets you specify the center first and then the edge. So I'm going to select that. I'm going to go to the origin, and I'm going to click once, and once I've clicked, I'm going to kind of hover away, and I'm going to build this die to be 100 millimeters. So I could probably get it pretty close if I just kind of hover and look at my dimensions on both sides. And it's 100 and 100. Well, let's say I was a little bit off, so let me just kind of click it down there. I was a little bit off. I'm going to now go to the dimension tool. So sketch dimension, click on that. And then I'm going to click on this top line here, click and hover up, click and type in 100, press enter, and then repeat that with this side here. So I'm going to make sure this is selected, click on that side, hover away, click, and type in 100 and press enter. Okay, if you ever realize that you've typed in a dimension incorrectly, you can always double click on it and edit it. Okay, if it doesn't let you edit a dimension, just for now go back. We have to kind of talk about that concept later. But you should have 2 dimensions. That's all you'll need because it's a square. And then we're going to finish sketch. So I'm going to click that green check mark. Now that we have that, we're going to extrude it upward. So I'm going to go to the extrude tool here, select it, and we are going to extrude this up a total of 100 units. So I'm going to type 100, enter, and now we have a 100 unit cube. Okay, so I don't mind what side you pick first. You don't actually have to watch the whole thing. I say watch maybe 1 or 2 sides, and then if you think you get the idea, you can just kind of skip to the end when I kind of fill it and bevel it and all that stuff. But for now, let's go ahead and pick the top side. I'm going to create a sketch. I'm going to go to the top here, and I'm going to click on it. And now you should be looking at the top side of your cube. I want this to be the side with the 1 on it. So I'm going to go and use a circle to draw that. And this circle is going to be in the center. So I'm going to click here. And let's go out probably, let's kind of try to keep it symmetrical. It is the 1, so that might be slightly bigger than the other sides. Let's say 20 millimeters. So I'm going to type 20 for that circle and press enter. Okay, now we got a 20 millimeter circle. If we look back to these die over here, it's never really just extruded inward, okay? It's not just like kind of cut in the part, it's round. If you felt inside of a die, these are usually round. They're like dimpled in. Okay, and we want to repeat that in Fusion 360. So how do we make a sphere? How do we revolve this? Well, it requires two steps. One, you need this initial circle, and then you need a line. So I'm going to go up here to the line tool, click on that, and I'm going to start this line from the top of the circle, and it's very important that you get the top of the circle. Hopefully it'll let me. Down to the bottom of the circle. Okay, and let me zoom in there. And you could tell right away that I didn't quite get to the center. And that's why I zoomed in, because you want to be in the center. So I'm still holding this line tool. I'm going to press escape twice to get rid of it. And then I'm going to select the center that I drew and press the delete key on the keyboard. The delete key is not the backspace key, okay? So don't press the backspace key. That doesn't do anything. It might, but last I checked it didn't, but it might. Okay, so we're going to draw that line again. I'm going to click line, and this time to make sure it's in the center, I'm going to actually click on the origin, because I know the center of the circle is in the origin. So I'm going to click, and I'm going to go straight up to the edge of the part, and I'm seeing that X there. I'm guessing that means it's at the edge, so I'm going to click there. And then I'm going to repeat that, so click at the center and go straight down and click at the other edge. Okay, so I've cut this circle into two pieces. Now that we've done that, we want to essentially get rid of half the circle, and I'll explain why in a second. But the fastest way to get rid of half of the circle is to click this tool here that looks like a pair of scissors. This is the trim tool. So I'm going to click on that trim tool. Make sure you don't have anything selected, otherwise it might auto trim something. But if it ever does, just undo it with the undo button here. And with the trim tool active, I'm just going to kind of hover over this line and click on it. And when you do that, it should have cut half the circle away. Okay, so you're left with half a circle. So this is what I wanted. I'm going to kind of zoom out so you can see the entirety of this object, and I'm going to press Finish Sketch. Okay, it's fine if you leave that 20 dimension there. It's not going to affect anything. Okay, I'm going to click on the little house on the side just to give me a nice isometric view. And now, instead of extruding this, which we already know we can extrude this and go into the shape, but that's not what I want. I want it to be like round inside. Let me cancel that. Cancel. Instead of doing that, we're going to do what is known as a revolve. And a revolve is right next to the extrude tool. It's right here. I'm going to click on it. And then to use a revolve, you need two things. You need the profile and you need the axis. And it shows it here in your palette. Your profile is the first thing you need to select. And then I'm going to click on select for the axis, and I'm going to click on that second. Okay? So with that selected, I'm going to click the profile. This is the profile of the half circle. So I'll click on it once. It lit up. And then I'm going to go to axis. I'm going to click select. So that's lit up. And then I'm going to click on this line, or one of these two lines. And when you do that, it should immediately spin that half profile, that half circle, around that axis. And if you think about what it does when it spins around 360 degrees, it actually generates like a dimple or like a sphere. In this case, it's a negative sphere because it's cutting through the object. If yours isn't cutting through the object, chances are over here in the operation, it isn't cut right now, it's join. And join's going to make it like actually stick out of the cube. But we don't want that. We want it to be cut out. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to switch that to cut. I'm going to press OK. Okay, so now we got our 1 on that side. Let's look at the bottom, and if we know this side's 1, then the bottom should be 6. And I'm going to start a sketch on the bottom of the cube. So I'm going to click there. Okay, and it should say bottom. I don't really like how it oriented itself. You can see the word bottom is like backwards on mine. So I can use these arrows on the side and click them a few times. And now it's oriented like so that the word bottom is facing the way I would expect it to. Okay, so what do I know about a 6? Well, I know it has 6 circles on it. I can pretty much guess that 2 of them are probably going to be on this line here. And then I'm guessing the other ones are kind of even away. So if this entire thing is 100 units, I'm going to take a guess that they're about 20 units away from each other. So let me think about that. 20 units, so 40, 60. No, that wouldn't really make a whole lot of sense. But what about 25 units? 25, 25, 25. Yeah, that could work. Okay, so 25 units, 3 circles. So let's go ahead and draw each of these circles, and then we will kind of move them into place. And we don't want them as big as the one. The one is slightly bigger because it's the only number on that side. For the other sides, let's kind of keep it a consistent, like, whoops, not 151, a consistent, let's say 15. So I type 15, I press enter, and I'm going to repeat that a few times, okay? I'm going to put 1 on this area, and I'm going to just kind of repeat that. Now, there are easier ways to do this, okay? So some of you who might be more familiar with the program might be like, why am I doing it this slow way? This is all just practice. This technical practice is kind of what makes you better at this kind of stuff. So I drew 6 circles, 15, and I put them roughly where they belong.